I got a text here from a Steve Fezzik, who said on his text, who wrote, I should say, more properly, he said, fast food hack you must do, always customize your order so they make it fresh. Always order your Big Mac without pickles, fries with no salt. Some examples. If only he were here live in the flesh to talk about this. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, the only back-to-back winner of the Hilton Super Contest back in the day, the great Steve Fezzik. How you doing, sir?
Well, Matt Youmans is the foremost expert on fast food. But, you put out 50 picks, you're going to get a couple of them wrong, inevitably. So I'm here to clean it up a little bit.
What are you said off air that you wanted to mention the two that you dislike the most.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about winning today. Bad news bears, the Yankee coach. I'm going to talk about losing, all right? And these are the two biggest losing fast food places. Fatburger, the last great American hamburger stand? No, not at all. Look at the price point. It's no different than any other of the burgers. I was in Tahoe, $7.99 for fries, $14.99 for a basic 1/3 pound hamburger. Who pays that? Fatburger belongs at the bottom of the list just from a pricing perspective.
2 in the morning, got a fat burger. I think you're supposed to get it at 2 in the morning. I think that's the point of it.
Not in Tahoe. They close at 10.
What's the other one?
Starbucks.
Starbucks. Oh, yeah, but that's its own little category, right?
You know, the problem with Starbucks is it's supposed to be like a niche-y, like really upscale, and they microwave their breakfast sandwiches.
Terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
3 times worse than an Egg McMuffin at McDonald's for 3 times the price. What dumbo eats food at Starbucks? If you like the coffee, get the coffee. Stop with the food. All of it. I've had it all because I got a $10 free food comp.
Where?
It's all awful.
Matt Youmans, top 50 fast food rankings at VSiN.com. I agree with you, but you agree with me that the McDonald's breakfast thing sort of hovers above all of this?
If it was just a breakfast-only survey, Portillo's, as good as it is, just disappears. McDonald's is good food.
It's just good food. All right, that's what you dislike. What's your favorite of all of it?
I'll go with Portillo's.
You will.
And I'll In-N-Out Burger for value, just because, and the service, because they pay their employees $2 more per hour. You are getting great service at In-N-Out Burger, whereas you go to Popeye's Chicken and you'll be convinced to short America that we are just doomed trying to get food at Popeye's as good as their chicken sandwiches.
In-N-Out, I'm going to say this as a California guy. In-N-Out's kind of overrated. And it is. I'm telling you why. Because In-N-Out has this thing where it's like there's a secret menu, and so it's kind of like cool to order from the secret menu. So it got a lot of cachet from that. The fries are subpar, and then if you're in the Bay Area, there was another like late-night competing burger spot in Oakland, Nations, which is actually better burgers than In-N-Out. For those in the
The fries are subpar. I agree with you. Even though they're fresh, they must just not be bad for you because they don't taste good enough.
But the big thing is the burger. The burger is phenomenal, and also an underrated thing is the milkshake. I enjoy their milkshakes.
A little milkshake add-on.
Yeah,
okay.
All right, so you wanted to start with the ones you dislike the most. The hack before we move on, because I want to get to what I've been teasing is the quickest way to become a winning sports bettor. Let's start there. Let's move on from that. Let's start there with that, which is because we were talking about, okay, you've made appearances. Obviously, you're on with Patrick on Sharp Money all the time, Patrick and Dustin. And we've talked about so many different things on this show when you've come on. And one of the things that I don't know if you just kind of get sick of it. I can almost sense the frustration where it's like there is a very direct line to becoming a successful sports bettor, and sometimes it's not as complicated as people think.
Spot on. All you got to do is be good at one thing. All right. Now, poker players understand this, so they go ahead and instead of just playing no-limit poker, they expand out. And maybe they'll play open-faced Chinese or something a little more obscure, and they just get great at that game. So I would emphasize if you're struggling to win, heck, pick out something like a runs, hits, errors prop on baseball, and you are going to be as good at that runs, hits, errors prop as anybody. You're going to know everything about all the teams and which teams don't get a lot of hits, but they get runs like the Dodgers, etc. And you're going to win if you just specialize in one item. Now, I like betting preseason baseball for the season wins and for some of the prop bets. It was just, Gilly, it was just 15 months ago. We were at the Raider Cafe.
Yes, we were.
And
with Wishnev.
Dialing it back, and they had a prop there will a team lose 100 games? Now, historically, there have been years where nobody has lost 100 games, but the game has changed, and that's reflected in the season wins. Several teams are favored now to not win 100 games. So 15 months ago, I said, Todd, put the pretzel bites down. You got to keep betting this. Yes, there will be a team that is going to lose 100 games, and I think there was 3 teams that year. One team lost like 108, one team lost 105. Literally, by the end of April, it was a guaranteed winner.
White Sox might lose it by the end of the month.
And the White Sox this year, the same sort of thing. Longest losing streak. One book put up a 10.5. Which team? Not which team, but what will the longest losing streak for any team be? 10.5. The over was like a 90% bet. It was just so strong.
You brought up something with this. So obviously, their NFL season win totals pre-flop to bet into. You brought up something off air with me or via text that I have been saying about the MLB, the Major League Baseball season win total pool when I used to write the manifestos at VSiN.com about MLB season win totals. Please explain.
Yeah, so the average for a season win number should be the number of games you played divided by 2. But in football, it actually should be a little less than that because overtimes only last 10 minutes. You're going to have ties, 1 or 2 of them per year. So instead of 8.5, the average should come out to be 8.4. But it's not 8.4 because of irrational exuberance. Everybody's like, oh, the Rams are a sleeper team. Oh, Houston, Detroit, watch out for those teams. And so they all these teams wind up a little bit higher than they should be. Like even the Carolina Panthers are getting steamed through the roof versus their opener. So the current average is 8.58. I just punched it in. This is on Westgate's numbers. I know you love your Westgate.
Love.
Yes. The number should be 8.4. Sounds trivial. 0.18 difference. Who cares? Well, it turns out that's like a 0.2 difference, which this is virtually what it is. It's like the difference between being the house versus being the player. So if you bet without even shopping, you just went to Westgate and played every single team under, just versus their numbers, you're a slight favorite to actually win.
So think about that. That's just turning your brain off. But it would again, so let's do the MLB equivalent. So when I used to do the whole season win totals thing, if you take, there are 30 teams in Major League Baseball, there's 162 games per team. That's a grand total of, quick math, 2,430 total Major League Baseball games. Did I get that right?
I assume so.
2,430 Major League Baseball games. When you add up the pre-flop season win totals, regardless of book, it would be anywhere between 2,445 to 2,465. And you think to yourself, first of all, the first thought ought to be, and the way I used to phrase it was, your instinct, therefore, ought not to be to have a spade of overs. That's how I would say it. So if your instinct ought to always be the other direction because it's already shaded, and you said it at the beginning, which is the human brain is wired for optimism, right?
Absolutely.
We're even in game totals, right? The average bettor will be like, over. Oh, it's going to go over the total. And so the instinct ought to be counter to that because it's already built in.
Not to mention the homers. I mean, how many people bet the Chicago Cubs for like the last 50 years? The Cubs are going to win the pennant, right, and they're going to go over, they're so loyal, the fans, in Wrigleyville. And this is without shopping. And there are disparities. Like, this year, Tampa Bay, I saw a season win 81 and another shop at 83. Same time, exactly the same moment. So no market timing at all. So boom, I'm like, well, I'm going to play the middle. I'm going to go over 81 and under 83, but I'm going to get me some more under 83 because I know the unders probably have more value. So I max bet the under 83 and I do a half a bet on the over 81.
I promised the Mike Tomlin trend here in the preseason. Pittsburgh has won its last 6 preseason games straight up at ATS. This is courtesy of Steve Makinen, by the way, at VSiN.com. Steve Makinen does such a great job. And we are not a trends show, but I kind of like trends in a preseason because there's reason for them. Pittsburgh has won its last 6 preseason games straight up in ATS and is 18-4 straight up and 16-6 against the spread dating to 2017. Steve Fezzik, would you agree that when it comes to NFL preseason and head coaches, that there may actually be something to those?
Oh, absolutely. So, obviously, guys like Harbaugh really want to win. Now there's 2 of them, so we'll see if the other guy...
By the way, Jim Harbaugh's, I went back and looked. It's funny you mentioned that. His 4 years in San Francisco, 2-2, 3-1, 3-1, 2-2. straight up in preseason. By the way, the wins were blowouts usually.
And, of course, famously, McVay doesn't care, when he plays. So what's interesting is that Pittsburgh was a 2-point favorite against Houston. And then Houston's going to play starters. That I don't know if that means 3 plays. Who knows?
Yeah.
And now the line's down to pick 'em. I will predict that that's the low point on the Men of Steel. And if you want to get in, I would invest in Pittsburgh at pick right now.
I want to dive more into that because I'm curious how deep you get into preseason betting, and if it is, and I think you're intimating that it is, a completely different discipline for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe you do some of the same things in the regular season. The only back-to-back winner of the then Hilton Super Contest, which of course became the Westgate Super Contest thereafter, it's Steve Fezzik on a numbers game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. I have worn the bad second button-down shirt in honor of Mrs. Fezzik, who hates that it sort of butterflies on me. She does not like that.
She's like, that Gilly's like showing some skin there.
Well, it's just where the laptop, because if I'm up here, no one cares. Right?
What's bad about the second button? Or is it just
it's just in
low?
A spot on this shirt where it looks like it, and then when the laptop cuts it off, you have no idea where it goes. It could go down to my belly button for all you know.
It looks like Kerry Casanova over there,
We get tweets at Beating the Book. Brian M. Talking about the conversation we had with Will Hill earlier about the rainouts, not the rainouts, but the games that start and then get delayed just a couple innings in. He says, my understanding, Brian M. does, my understanding from having worked at Fenway is the team has full autonomy to start the game. Once the game starts, it lies with the umps. I think that is correct. Not sure, I'm sure he knows, having worked at Fenway, not sure if this has changed post-COVID. Also heard there are heavy fines if the game is canceled first 3 innings. Oh, interesting. Heavy fines. The numbers, guys. Hi, Gill. Obviously, Youmans isn't a teenage boy, but if he were, I can assure you, number 1 would be Raising Cane's. The kids are going nuts for it. I don't get it. I agree with Matt, who says the tenders are average and the fries fizzle. I'm not about the fries, but the tenders are pretty darn good.
I agree with that. Good sauce, too.
Yeah. Mike Stacks, with how sharp Rufus is, does he have any thoughts about the DK 3% charge? Listen, I'd love to know Rufus's thoughts, but Rufus didn't show up this morning.
I can handle this surtax if you'd like.
Someone check on Rufus. Health check on Rufus. Wellness check.
Wellness check.
Okay. A couple more. We'll get to you on that. John Blom, you, Fezzik, Drew, Crack, all together will be the top handicapper room in the game. I have that higher power ranked than the Browns quarterback room or the Dolphins wide receiver room. Primetime, really looking forward to seeing Rufus join you in the legendary handicapper room this AM. Does the room thing bother you as much as it bothers me? Quarterback room, everybody saying that now?
I kind of like it.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
I invented it. No,
did you?
Just kidding. You can tell the story.
So Fezzik claims to have invented, it's the Austin Powers thing, where his father claims to have invented the question mark. What do you say that it originated with you?
Pre-flop betting.
Stop it.
I have referred to pre-flop betting and back up the truck. If you got a big bet, you back up the truck, and I've been doing that for 30 years.
How long have you been saying pre-flop?
Oh, 20 years.
Pre-flop? Wow.
I'm going to have to find documentation for it.
Please, I want to see full documentation.
Yeah, fair enough.
What about that 3% DraftKings tax? You have anything good to say about it?
No. There's all my references are like from the 80s. So there's a movie, The Running Man, with Schwarzenegger, all right? And the game show host is the villain. And he comes out, and his name's Killian. And then they go, Killian is lying to you. And so when they say it's a nominal fee, it's 3.2%. No, it's not a 3.2% increase. It's a 3.2 fee on not just the vigorish, but on what you're wagering. So what it translates to being, we have laid minus 110, an extra $10 in vig on a $100 bet for 50 years. Since the gambling tax in 1976 or whatever it was dropped from 10% to 2%, the federal tax, it has been minus 110, $10. And now DraftKings wants to charge $13.60 instead of $10. That is a 36% increase overnight that they want to implement. There's no way any bettor is going to be good with this, and there's no way other operators are going to match it. It is going to be a failure. Don't waste all your money. You're just going to have to change it back. It's not going to fly.
I hope you're right. I'm not so sure you're right, because as I said yesterday, I wonder if it's just the tip of the iceberg. I wonder if everybody jumps on board.
Everyone won't jump on board because there'll be
not
more
everyone, but some others.
Operators outside of the U.S. will make an enormous comeback where all of a sudden, you know what? That's
the biggest point of everything. When you say operators, you're not referring to European. I'm referring to illegal, the local bookie, offshore, whatever. which, by the way, still exists for those who don't know. But I'm just saying the very thing that you claimed to have set out to eradicate is the very thing you prop up. Period. That's the whole story with it.
And we're talking fast food, right? And Portillo's is different from McDonald's. It's different from Starbucks. It's different from Fatburger. They all have their own burger, all right? This is like it's exactly the same thing. I'm betting Minnesota plus 4.5 against Las Vegas, and it's the same product. So when it's an identical product, consumers are going to go where it's cheaper when they go ahead and just have to click on a button.
I asked Captain Jack this yesterday. Would you ever have a reason to bet there anymore? Like, could you ever? I said, my example is, if they had a futures price at DraftKings that was so much better on something you liked than in another place, maybe then. But even then, Steve, I'd feel dirty about it.
Now, I'd be the opposite. I'd be like, famously, Kenny Houston, famous blackjack player, he got barred at the Westford Ho. They had a $200 limit, and they kicked his butt out, and he was so angry at their business practices that he literally said in his book, $1 Million Blackjack, it is time, this is the Westward Ho, it's time to pound the hoe. He's like, go in there.
Wait a minute.
Get the coupon books. Save it for the $200 max bets that you don't lose on 22. You double on 11, you catch the ace, use it then, it's worth $400. We're going to annihilate these guys because I'm so angry with their business practices. It won't surprise me if there aren't some people that are upset enough to like make it their life's mission to like send in the advantage players to get these guys because they're just obviously just taking advantage of the consumer.
Apologize for the stream of consciousness, but when we have Fez here, this is probably the way to go thing. So you just brought up blackjack. You were talking poker off air. Some poker hack you wanted to share?
Yeah, nobody does this. I don't know why. So a lot of times when you come in, you can't come in until you're in the big blind, all right? And you're at a disadvantage in the big blind. So if you're playing a 1-3 no-limit game, you can buy in for anywhere from 100 to 300. And all the good players and all the decent players buy in for 300 typically. It's a mistake, actually, because when you're playing in the blinds, you got to play the big blind, the small blind. You don't want a big stack. Because you're out of position. You want a small stack then. So what you should do, just buy in for 100 when you're in the big blind. I know this is a little thing, but for the rest of your life, it is going to add up. Play the $100 stack for 2 hands. You got a pair of jacks, someone raises, re-raise, some callers. You just shove. It's easy. It's an easy decision versus it being really hard to play that hand with a big stack. And then when you get the button, and you get to act last and you get position, then go ahead and go up to $300. I do it every time. I've never seen anybody else ever do that hack, but it makes complete mathematical sense.
As Youmans is to fast food, you are to these kinds of things.
Yes.
Period. I think that's on the LSAT, by the way, those kind of problems.
I'm a good standardized test taker.
I'm sure you are. By the way, your son is even better than you?
5 on his AP calculus exam. He's 13 years old.
Bro.
Oh, my God.
All right, let's get to
13 in AP calculus?
Yes.
The kid has a big brain.
Wow, I was happy just only have to do 1 semester of math in college. I was like, thank goodness.
Could you imagine if Fezzik had a dumb kid? That would be the most ridiculous. First of all, I would love to watch Fezzik deal with that.
What's funny, and then Wishnab, when I still beat my son at tennis sometimes, and he's like, that's because Johnny has no idea what he's doing. He's just a dumb kid. You have a stupid strategy, and he doesn't know what to do, how to take advantage of it.
A dumb kid he is not. All right, so back to the football thing then. So you are, again, and this is more macro than it is about specific games, but so your entire preseason strategy then can be reduced to what?
Looking for numbers that are just wrong. That I look for books to put up product nobody else is putting up. So let me give an example. So the MGM did this, all right? So they had a matchup, Notre Dame against Michigan. Who is going to win more games, all right? And people are very down on Michigan, so people like bet Michigan under 9.5, and they're even playing them a little bit under 9. Now, unfortunately, Notre Dame has their own problems, but their season wins at 10. So I've got a Notre Dame team. If you look at their schedule, they already got 8 wins automatic, 8 to 9 wins. Michigan has like 1 less win. Every one of their games is like, for these teams, it's like 8 wins, and now Michigan's going to lose to Ohio State, and they're probably going to lose to Oregon. They're probably going to win 9 games, and Notre Dame's probably going to win 10. So, like, Notre Dame may only be a 1-game favorite against Michigan, but their schedules are so obvious and set in stone, it's going to take an act of God for Michigan to win more than Notre Dame. So, and Notre Dame was like minus 150. So it was just a tremendous bet that you could make versus the opener. I think it was cheaper than minus 150.
And this requires no genius is the point. You're just doing the work. You're just looking.
It's a great point. So anyone, if I said, I need you to make a bet
Yeah.
Notre Dame against Michigan and set a line. Okay, now I know the Hall of Fame bookmakers came up with a different line, but I can tell you any sharp bettor that is analyzing everything is going to come to the same conclusion. It's just a matter of doing the work.
Leave my mishbucha alone, okay? But when it gets to when it gets to NFL preseason, do you do then the similar thing? Just in terms of game lines, what are you doing?
No, because it's complicated. It's so much information driven. So you have a situation where Vegas is going to play, both their quarterbacks, and so because of that, they have to evaluate, O'Connell versus, Minshew. And
so is that something that interests you to get involved in because it actually requires a different sort of skill set?
Exactly, and I'm not good at that skill set. So because of that, and you have to be like trolling all the Twitter, the beat writers and the like. So
you're a good Twitter troll. I'm
an aggregator. I am an aggregator. So
I thought that was your greatest strength.
I'm
Steve.
a top-down guy. So I use other people and their information, and then I make their plays. I spend too much time on Twitter. I know.
No. But it is interesting because that's just not something that your brain is that interested in doing.
Exactly.
You can't do everything.
Exactly.
I totally respect that. I get it. Whereas others swear by it. Like, hey, I'll spend my whole day on Twitter finding out what the how many snaps the starter will take in a Week 1 preseason game, for instance. More with Steve Fezzik on the other side. Numbers Game VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The only back-to-back Hilton Super Contest winner there has ever been. Did you use a proxy back then?
No, back then you just I don't think there were proxies.
I don't think there were.
You had to go in person, baby. You make your bets in person.
What years did you win those? Where there were no proxies?
2007, 2008. I won 2008, 2009. Won the South Point twice and won the Westgate twice.
You won the South Point twice and the Westgate twice?
Yeah.
2008, 2009.
In 2009, I actually angle shoot. I tied for first with both my entries in the South Point, so I counted as a double win.
Oh, this guy. Wait, when did Tony Salinas win his Super Contest?
Yeah, I love Tony Salinas with the cowboy hat and the like.
Yeah.
Is
he still with us?
I don't know. I do not know. I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him in a while. But he would wear. Wear like in the rodeo. He'd fit right in. Yeah, it's perfect.
What year did he win? Before you, right?
Yeah. It was before. Yeah.
Okay. Did he win back-to-back? No, you're the only back-to-back.
Only one.
Do you wear that with pride?
Not only do I wear it with pride, I got my Circa Survivor jacket now. So I can style like once a year, because I had a piece, Greg Jones, about that. I wound up with 1/6 of him.
Yeah.
So they come up, a guy comes up to me, he's like, do you want a Survivor jacket? I'm like, heck yeah, beautiful. And I'm feeling so good about it. And he's like, and here's what, I need your credit card. You got to pay. You don't get it. I'm like, okay, I'll pay.
How many millions? You do Circa Millions as well.
Yeah.
How many millions entries will you have? How many Survivor entries will you have?
I'll certainly have the max of the millions, 5. So the Survivor depends on whether the Chiefs win Thursday night. Now, that sounds crazy.
I like what you're doing here.
So what's going to happen is some people are going to enter Thursday, and they're not going to play Baltimore because Baltimore's a 2.8-point dog. They're going to play Kansas City, or they're not going to use Kansas City. So if Kansas City wins, now I actually have a negative rake. I have a rake against me because some people are going to start 1-0, and I'm only 0-0. I don't really want to play. I know that sounds trivial, but that's significant. But if Baltimore beats Kansas City, now all those people who played Kansas City, a lot of them,
Dunzo.
They're Dunzo. Their money's already in the pool, and they can re-up, but that's still extra money into the pool, which makes it like a free-for-all to make not only will I sign up for 10 survivors, I'll get my wife to sign up for 10.
So what I'm hearing is you will play 0 survivors if Kansas City wins the opening Thursday night.
I should play 0, but I'll play a couple just because
it's
so fun.
Okay, I was going to say.
It's so fun.
Like, the question was, are you that much of a robot that you would actually play 0 versus 10 based on the outcome of that game? No, you'll still play 2.
Well, the thing is, I can just, as an investor, I can get involved down the road, and get a good deal on people, in October. So I can always get involved later.
The average player who is coming in, who is a mere mortal, who is not Steve Fezzik, and ask the question, what is the optimal number of Survivor entries I should play? I suppose you've already answered that with your strategy, that's how they should play it. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, but let's assume that didn't exist.
Okay.
That everyone had to enter by Thursday.
Yes.
I would say the first entry...
What's the max number of entries in Survivor?
10, I believe. So the first entry is worth the most. However, I would argue that clearly the second entry still has positive expectations. There's going to be some people that sleep in. Heck, I'm still looking for Rufus. I'm still looking for Todd. I don't see them. So the point is each entry has slightly diminishing utility. Slight. okay? Because you can't just play the same path for every single team. Yeah. So because of that, everyone's different. Maybe it's 3 that's optimal. Maybe it's 7. It all depends.
This has always been my point, that I do believe, right, it's a tough thing because some people's heads explode. I know it's not in Derek's best interest for me to say this, but I do think that the notion of, you got to play all 10 or you got to play 7, like, I don't know. You're only playing 1 ultimately optimally. I get your point, though, but there is a that's the better way to say it. It diminishes as you add entries.
A great example, and I play advantage parlay cards. So if you say I can play 1 7-teamer, I'm playing my 7 best teams. Now I'm going to play. If I play 20 7-teamers, I'm not going to just play the same 7 teams. I got to diversify. I'll play some of the same picks and the like. But I'll go ahead and diversify. I did want to mention.
I didn't hear a number though in the end before you move on. What is there a number? Is there a static number for you?
4.5.
4.5, ladies and gentlemen. Go with full money for 4, and then go to the counter with half the money and see what happens.
I wanted to give a big thank you to Todd. I pick on Todd all the time. But
Todd Wishnev,
it's been 2 years since we had this weight challenge, and I was right around like 230, and this morning it's 204. So Todd has made me such a healthier person.
Yeah.
Just, doing that contest. We battled all summer. We both got down to 193.5. So thank you, Todd. That really, it changed my life.
Oh, that was very sweet of you.
Yeah.
We miss Todd Wishnev, who is on the Megapod, by the way. So the Megapod will start. The schedule for the Beating the Book podcast, once again, is that the Megapod starts before week 1. Each and every Thursday morning, we put it out. Me, Todd Wishnev, Will Hill, and a rotating group of the best guests, including yourself, sir, in all of sports betting. And then Guessing Lines begins before week 2.
But everyone just can't wait that long. What's this? I'm looking at the Bet Bash schedule, and it's Gilly Alexander. Friday, you're hosting a session, right?
Super honored. I've moderated there before, but this one has Billy Walters on it. So it's extra special. Jack Larkin is from Sports Trade. Alex Kane, who's the CEO of Sports Trade, will be on that as well. Plus, we have a former legislator in the state of West Virginia and a regulator, I want to say in Pennsylvania, but don't hold me to that. But anyway, it's going to be about, I'm sure the DraftKings thing will come up, but it's basically Billy's, I'm going to start with Billy because that's who people want to see. Be like, where's the voice for the bettor in all of this? So here's my thing, though. If folks who are listening to this are most likely not at Bet Bash, would you recommend that they come to it next year?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the key to Bet Bash is there's great social programs. There's open bars every night. There's golf. There's poker. And it's like going to Disney. Don't try to ride the rides, from sun up to sundown. You're just going to get burned out. So what you want to do is just recognize, hey, I'm going to pace myself. Maybe I'll pass on a scavenger hunt. I love golf. I want to play golf, but maybe I'll go ahead and pass on the poker tournament. If you try to do everything, you're just going to be so worn out after 2 days, especially at 60. I mean, I just can't do it anymore.
60 years old, Steve Fezzik. Is that why you can't play tennis every day with me? Is that the problem? 60?
I'm on the DL 2/3 of the time. And my son gets my first kick at me each week, and then playing twice a week is hard. Yeah.
Before we go, I understand. I'm sympathetic. Before we go, Circa Millions obviously has been your, these handicapping contests where you're picking 5 games a week has been your bread and butter, whether it was back at the Hilton or whether it's currently at Circa. Can you give for folks in the final 2 minutes without giving anything too far away? Because I love how you start with, I want perfect information, so I'm waiting till the very end. That's always the first thing you say.
Exact. Deadline's 3 p.m. You want to you don't have to put in your picks at 2:58. Famously, Las Vegas Chris almost didn't get his picks in because of that.
And he was in it, right? Like late.
Yeah. But an hour before is a good, compromise.
Are you setting alarms?
I'm on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm betting all day, college football. But there have been times where I look up, it's like, oh, it's 2:10. Okay, all right, I'm popping them in now. And getting your picks in, number one, but get them in late. Those would be my top 2 picks. And my number 3 strategy advice until like week 13, I would never take a number worse than what you could bet on the board. So think about this.
Until week 13.
Yeah, then you could start being a little contrarian if you're out of it. But
then you start scoreboard watching a little bit?
Yeah, but if you like, for instance, let's say you like the Chargers against the Raiders and Herbert's going to play and his plantar fasciitis has cleared up, all right? But they make the Chargers -3.5 in the contest, but that South Point still has the Chargers -3. I would not play the Chargers minus 3.5 because you're making, when you put it on your card, it's like an implied bet on the Chargers. Just go and bet the Chargers at the window minus the 3 instead of betting them minus 3.5 by playing them in a contest.
So what percentage then, you have 5 picks a week, so it's an easy percentage to calculate, of your picks actually has to do with any kind of handicap that's beyond what you just described?
Half.
Half and half.
Half and half.
Half is just, bang, I'm doing those because I'm getting the best of it, and half is because I think something.
And when I play poker, I say, I'm not good enough to fold pocket kings. I don't care what's happened. I could be convinced a guy has aces. I'm still not folding my kings because I just am not going to be right enough at the time. I'm not good enough not to play a team +8 when the line's 6.
Lastly, using this strategy, have you ever just been way out of it ever?
Yes. There's been years where the line moves haven't done well, and I can't win when that occurs.
But you're okay with that because it works a whole heck of a lot of time other times to justify.
Absolutely. I finished 21st. I faded late, but I still got 21st out of 5,000.
You were definitely
I'll take
late.
it.
Yeah, 21st. For a guy who's won it twice, 21st, he's like, 21st. Thousands of people in this thing. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it as always.
My pleasure.
Steve Fezzik, everybody.